I've been a horse trainer for over 15 years. In that time, I had a lot of life changes that inspired me to look a little bit deeper into the gaps that I believe are in this industry and the way we interact with our animals. What I found is that they have been huge in being able to help people shift their perspective, completely shift their energy, and really thrive in their relationships.
My actual birthday, we went and got pedicures. Got a pedicure. Oh, cute. Yeah, and then we went. It was I. Saying hi. Good morning.
Cute. And sort of intention is going to be integrating and making friends with your shadow self. Okay, hear me out. You're like, well, that sounds really intense. I thought I was going to do a groundwork clinic. Here's the important piece of it. So you can't really get anywhere with your horse until you kind of sort out your own stuff. I mean, you guys all know that. And I think there's a lot of rejection of the voice in your head that comes up. It's like, I want to get rid of this. I don't want to hear this anymore. It's a negative self-talk. So that is part of you. And so it's less about getting rid of it and rejecting it and more about understanding it and integrating it and sort of making friends with it. So the horses are just going to let you know how on track you are. So really what we want to talk about is identifying what it is. What does that voice say? And it's especially going to be highlighted when you trade horses and when you start to see patterns between each horse. The horses are just really a representation of like the relationships and situations in your life. So it's going to be sort of hopefully a gentle guide in if you're on the right track or not. The exercises we're going to do today are going to bring awareness to their body, but at the same time, you're going to need to bring awareness to your own body in order for them to be able to regulate with you. So it's really about being present and being about what's mine versus what's actually happening. What's my perspective? What's my lens? And is it the lens through my shadow self that's like all the things that come out? So the shadow self is really just the voice that kicked in when something happened to you in your life that felt unsafe. And that can be anything. It can be, and it's mostly childhood stuff, you know, you being told you weren't supposed to be a certain way, or, you know, teacher stuff, you know, friend stuff, bullying stuff, big traumas, little traumas, whatever it is. That voice came in to help keep you safe. So that voice said, oh, remember that. We want to avoid that situation. Don't be like this because that's what made that happen. Anything in that, like, so you really need to, instead of just living unconsciously and like tra la la la, going about your life like everything's fine. Some people like to fall into like victimhood. Everything bad keeps happening to me. I don't know why this stuff keeps happening. I don't know what to do about it. It's out of my control. I don't have any. So I can only speak to that because like I was like #1 victim. Like I was the best at being victim. Like I was so good because everything was, oh my gosh, all of these people, and then this, and then that. And once I sort of went over the last 3 years of like a death of the old self, so I did go through all of it, which is why I feel like I can speak to it now, because I do feel like in the last like 3 or 4 months, I'm just sort of on the other side of it. And talking to yourself should not be something that should have ever been taken away from you as a child. So when your parents said, who are you talking to? Your imaginary friend, you know, are you talking to yourself? Because that's weird. Oh, didn't that happen to you?
Yeah.
In school or something, right?
No, I feel like.
In
I
sixth
don't-
grade?
So, wait. Oh.
So he was.
I wasn't.
I think. Okay, I'll let you tell the story.
No, I wasn't even talking to myself.
Oh, he wasn't talking to himself, but someone said, "Oh, accused you of talking to yourself, right?"
Yeah, and then yeah.
And it turned into like a whole thing in sixth grade. So it's like these little things, like talking to yourself turns into a very much a like, you're not supposed to do that. That's weird. Like why? But really, I'm inviting you to have full-on conversations with yourself. There's this balance in everything, right? So there's the light and the shadow side of stuff. So the light being your higher self, you know, the intuition, the knowing who you are, the true self that you were born on this planet to be before all of the stuff came in. Secondly, the shadow side is that side that had to come in and keep you safe, or so you thought. So by acknowledging what that shadow self is saying, it helps you identify when it's popping in, separate from what your actual intuition is saying or what you know to be true for yourself. And so when you can identify and separate those two things, you notice when it starts to happen and you can sort of do a pattern interrupt. So it's the same thing we do for the horses, especially the horses that have been through stuff, that haven't fully integrated their own shadow stuff. The pattern interrupt becomes a very useful tool because when your subconscious and your unconscious mind and body kick into that survival mode, there has to be a conscious pattern interrupt to stop it from going, because you don't know what's happening until you know it's happening. So the first part of today is going to be really identifying what is like the most common phrase your shadow self likes to say to you. And we're going to identify that just by, we'll do like a quick meditation and a little bit of breath work and just walk. And I want you guys to practice shutting down your analytical mind that thinks too hard about what the right answer is, and just letting it sort of fall in. And so some of you already can identify it because we've done enough to where you're like, oh, I know what mine says. Just hear if there's anything more, because there's always deeper layers to go. And so we'll spend the first part of it kind of doing that. And then I'm going to have you guys give your shadow self a name so that, remember, we're not rejecting. So there's no Karens and there's no like, we want it to be a name that it doesn't have like a necessarily like negative connotation. It's just, this is the shadow self speaking. This is so and so. And we're going to practice with our own horse, and then when we switch horses, when that same theme starts to come up, doing a pattern interrupt for ourselves and having a conversation saying, thank you, I appreciate why you're telling me this, because at one point I know it was meant to keep me safe, but we're here and we're now and we're present and we don't need that right now, but thank you. And accepting it, sending it love, and then going on to the next thing that you're doing with the horses. Do you guys have any questions? Okay. I just wonder how this would go over with like someone who like never worked with me. But I get to go like this with you guys because you guys already have. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to have you guys do is, okay, breathe. It's just like we're going to breathe. We'll do a quick meditation, and then I'm going to have you guys walk. And we're going to kind of uncover what the most prevalent phrase or words that your shadow self says to you, and then we'll go from there. Main purpose is to expose with love what you're actually doing when you're riding. Are you using too much hand? Are you using too much leg? Are you too stiff in your body? And you're going to pay attention to what the information that the horse is giving you about that stuff. It can trickle back all the way to your connection is sort of broken with that horse. That probably won't happen with horses that aren't yours, but it'll definitely come up with your own horse. So in the real world, you would go all the way back to, I'm just going to take the halter off, and I'm going to connect there first. If you have a lot of ear pinning and biting and that kind of stuff, if that comes up with any horse, yours or that you're working with, you can go ahead and just pause, and then you sort of reground yourself and pay attention to the narrative that's going on, whatever the name of that voice you've given, and just hear it. And hear the horse's response and behavior is just a response to what that voice is saying. Does that make sense? If you're going, oh my gosh, this is someone else's horse, I can't do this, it's going to highlight all your vulnerable, like, I don't want to be seen, I don't want to mess this horse up, I'm not clear enough, I'm not confident enough, all that stuff's going to start to bubble up, especially when you have a hold of someone else's horse. But for some people, it's easier to do someone else's horse. So it doesn't have to look a certain way, but I guarantee at some point that little voice is going to come up. That is your opportunity to stop and pause. And the formula is really, oh, hey, so-and-so, like, I hear you, and I don't think this is actually true for this situation. You know what I mean? Like, I know that you're there, thank you for being there, but we can talk later. Just say that, we can talk later, and then go again. So the exercise itself is really, how effective is my leg? How effective are my cues? And what is my body doing that's affecting their body? And then all you're doing is leading. You could have a whip, you can have your rope, you can have whatever you want. The main thing is that when you're riding, you cannot pull your horses forward. You have to use your leg. So your whip or your rope is your leg for today. It will directly connect to how you use your leg when you ride. So it all correlates. You don't want to pull them forward and then push them forward. You want to create the energy and then direct the energy. The second thing that I see people do is they try to create the energy in their own body and then they run with it. And then their horse is like, what in the world are we doing? So you want to create the energy in your own body and then share it with them first and then go together. So it's not about you going first and then bringing them with you. It's not about you sending them. It's about I'm creating it. What does it feel like in my body to trot off or to walk off or to change speeds or to stop and back up? What does it feel like when the horse I'm with is so connected that they just come with me? And it's easy. You'll start to feel like sometimes when I know I'm going to work with a horse that wants to be a little bit sticky, I'll feel it in my, usually here. And it's like a, and then I have to let it go and then I ask. So start to just really pay attention to what your body's doing before you start. That's the most important part, in the stillness. It's not in the activity that you get most of the information. It's right before the activity and right after the activity where you're like, oh, okay, wait a minute. So we'll do it with your own horses first, and then we'll do it, and then you guys will switch. So at any point when you're doing this, if that voice starts to come up, because it will, either you can share it if you want, shout it out if you want, and then we can unwind it a little bit if you need help, or you get some sort of a moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this, or you can stop whatever you're doing and write it down, and then you can sort of look at it and unpack it later. But this is just to trudge up some of that information for you. Am I like, I wonder what's gonna happen? Because when you go, I wonder what's gonna happen, your body is so tense, the horse is gonna be like, oh, I guess we're gonna stand right here so you sort that out. Because that feels gross and I'm not going with that. So if you're trying to embody as a leader for me is embodying it first. It's not about me telling you what to do. It's about I'm leading, I'm going first. So if I can't create that in my own body first, then there's no way that I can expect them to also show up that way. So because she's like kind of sleepy and, you know, I want to make sure that I'm not expecting a certain thing from her. I know what it feels like when I just walk off and a horse comes with me. It feels really good. And I know what I'm doing. I'm just walking. So get clear on what you're doing, because some of the stuff will come up with, well, I don't know, right? I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not confident. You're just walking. We're going to keep it very simple first so that that piece doesn't sort of show up for you. So I'm going to create the energy. What I'm not going to do is walk off and have my horse left behind and keep walking. That's what I'm going to keep walking, and then I keep pulling harder and harder and harder, and then the horse just kind of hunkers down. So if you hit tension, and that's like if you're riding, you can't just drag them if you haven't gone yet. If you don't, it's like a boat. You can't steer unless you've got some momentum going. So if I'm going to walk off and I know I'm going to hit resistance, and I know I won't hit a lot with her, so I'm not going to hang, from here, I'm not going to keep going. When I hit that resistance, I'm going to go, oh, I see that, like, she needs a little bit more, leg, not hand. So I would send here, and I would have her catch up. The one thing that we worked on with a couple people was slow your feet down, but keep the energy up. So having your energy come up and your physical body and cues go slow, which sort of blows people's minds because they're like, wait, what? How can my energy be up and my body go slow? Like, what does that even mean? It's like, I want to create it. Like, let's get excited, but it doesn't mean I need to run off. Like, I can create that excitement and that energy flow without running. I can just create it by standing here and slowing my body down so that they can catch up. Because if I just blast off right now, guaranteed she's gonna be like, what the hell just happened? It's like getting on and just like kick, and they're gonna go, like what? Like, whoa. So thinking about like a dance partner, it's the same thing. You're not gonna nobody likes dancing with somebody who just like rips you around the dance floor. It's horrible. It's a horrible feeling. But you also don't want somebody who's like floppy and like, meh, because that's gross too. It's like that medium of like, I'm here, I know what we're doing, I'm gonna stay connected with you while it's all happening. So I'll know what I'm gonna do, make sure there's no resistance in my body, and then I'm gonna you can create it with a cluck and let them know that something's coming, and like wake up. So if I get here, I'm gonna slow my body down and allow her to catch up. I'm not gonna take the pressure off and just be done. And the same thing with the backup. You can say the word whoa. What does it feel like in my body when I stop when I'm riding? Whoa. Say the word like you want the stop to feel. There's a lot of people who go, whoa, and like, nobody wants to ride a stop that feels like whoa, because you get slammed into the dashboard, you end up on their neck, their front end gets stiff, their head comes up because they're imbalanced. How do you want your horse to stop? You whoa. Even if they're cantering, I still want my whoa to feel like I'm being lightly placed down, like you're landing an airplane. So a lot of people are so unaware of the way they even say the word whoa, because that is what your body's doing. The word is just a manifestation of what tension you're holding in your body. So if you can't whoa and have them stop, responsive, just not hard and fast. You can be responsive without it being like a hard, fast stop. We'll come here, catch her up, and then go. And you don't have to trot, but you can speed up. Here I hit resistance, so instead of me walking faster, I'm going to create more energy and let her catch up. So if I want to go faster, I'm going to create the energy and then ask, whoa. If the responsiveness piece right there where it wasn't, where she kept moving, I'm just going to pick up lightly. Same thing with the backup, because we're going to do forward and we're going to do back up. The same thing, I'm going to put this on, it's the same thing as walking forward. If I hit resistance, asking to back up, I'm just going to create more energy. It doesn't have to be right in front of them or at them. You're just creating a bigger energy within yourself. Does that make sense? So it's just two things. You're connecting with yourself, kind of creating that energy, and you're going to walk off. You're going to really see how effective is my leg. What am I doing with my hands? If you're pulling on them, trying to get them to come, you're probably pulling too much with your hands when you ride. So it's going to sort of do a pattern interrupt for you, because you're on the ground, you're going to be able to witness it a little bit different. And your ideal goal is to be able to walk and trot and stop and back and have them just stay with you the whole time by being very clear. So in between each of these transitions, when you ride and when you're on the ground, take a deep breath and then ask for the thing. Don't just stop, whoa, and they're gonna be like, oh, surprise. How do you expect your horse to ever have a nice transition if you can't even transition mentally and on the ground next to them, and then you get on and think it's gonna happen? Like, you have to be able to practice it, and it's so much easier on them mentally and physically if you do it on the ground than if you're practicing it on their back, and then you've got your weight shifting and you're hanging on their mouth. And this is just a much kinder way to connect you and to kind of highlight the parts of you that probably need to be kinked out a little bit. And then the bonus is that you get to pay attention to what starts to come up when I look around and I see everyone else doing, oh my God, everyone else is doing it except for me. There's something wrong with me. And you can go, oh, hold on, that's not actually my higher self, my truest me speaking right now. That's that shadow self that I need to soothe. It's basically your child self that was criticized and that was hurt and that was all the things. Like going, hey, no, we don't want to be seen because you know, we'll get criticized, we'll get bullied, you know, people think we don't know what we're doing, God forbid, and then we'll be rejected, and your minds will go like all the way. Pattern interrupt that. Oh, wait a minute. I'm having one of those thoughts. Those thoughts will also create resistance. So it's a twofer. The thought will create the resistance in your body while you're going. And so if they really start to drag behind you, it's probably because you've got some tightness and something going on first. So just stop then and go, okay, where am I at right now? And like really have a conversation with your shadow self about it if you need to. And so we'll just experiment and we'll see what happens from this. If you guys have questions at any point, scream them out. And I'll tell you when we can switch. But if there's any like moments where you're like, oh my gosh, I just thought of this thing, or oh my gosh, this keeps coming up, or I don't know what I'm doing, you can feel free to watch. You can feel free to stop and watch if I start to work with somebody, because you can get stuff from that too. Or keep going. Like if there's stuff that comes up that you feel like you don't want to forget, because sometimes that happens, just journal it down, or you can say it out loud. Like this is sort of, the exercise is important, but the stuff that comes up from the exercise is actually more important. So go ahead and just see what happens, and then when we switch, more stuff will come up. The other thing you can think about is, where am I looking when I'm asking my horse to go? Because a lot of you are stopping and sort of looking at your horse. Are you coming with me? Are you going to come with me? So go, no, we're going together, right? So look up and out. Don't look down at the ground. Look up and out at the trees. Find a spot, you know, make a goal to head to one direction or whatever it is. But look up. Don't look at them. And because when you're riding, you want to look down at them. You can feel in your hand whether or not they're coming with you. You don't need to see them to know whether or not your hand has hit resistance on the rein. So just keep that in mind. Should have kept my kid here. Oh, you were definitely going to knock that over. I don't know what I'm thinking. that was dumb. That was definitely not going to work. Okay, so Kim, go ahead and there's a good example of this transition where they get a little sticky. Where but now you're probably gonna nail it because raw. But
no, I don't think so. I think that's the sticky spot.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, go ahead and just do what you've been doing.
So a little pulling there.
Mm-hmm.
No.
So just, you can change the tempo of your walk. You can adjust that stuff.
She's like Dr. Doolittle. Snow White.
Good. And then go again. Right there. So do you see it's very small, but we do it all the time. She pulled.
Yeah.
And then instead of stopping where she hit tension and then driving more slack got let out, right? It's very slight, but it's like, that's those little things that we don't realize that we're kind of giving. It's so tiny, because earlier it may have been more significant because it happened, and then and instead of I'm gonna slow my feet down and create more energy, it was like, I'll just give them more space to figure it out.
Yeah.
And so
She'll come along eventually.
So she ended up at the end of the rope, and then the resistance was still there. It was never addressed, right? So the moment you hit and that was like slight, it's probably only like 4 inches, but that's the stuff that is meaningful. Those little things where it's like the moment you feel it, are you addressing it? Or are you going, well, let me give it another chance and another chance. Pretty soon you're out at the end of rope and you're like, well, now I actually have to deal with it because I don't have any more room to give. So, okay, go ahead. Right there. Now create more energy when you hit there. Does that make sense?
Okay,
So drive with your leg. So your leg is sort of the one thing that if there's anything that needs to be strengthened, right? So it's going to come out here where you kind of want to, please just come with me so I don't have to use my leg. So this is your leg. Your rope is your leg.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so think of it like that.
All right.
So when you hit the resistance, don't think you're slowing everything down to do something different. Think, oh, I need to engage more. So think of even creating more forward and more energy with your leg before you start.
Okay.
So you guys can go together versus I go and then I try to get them to catch up. It's like we're going together. So try thinking like that.
So I'm going to use this.
Just create the energy as you're walking forward.
I still have to pull.
So if you feel like you have to pull, that's where you stop and drive them up to you.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Good. And see how it kind of catches you up, and a little bit more. You can even bring them next to you a little bit more. Sometimes when horses want to drag behind, I let them walk next to me. If they want to walk way ahead of me, then I bring them way behind me. I just sort of, where's the balance point?
Okay. So you want him next to me, right here?
Sure, yeah.
When they do stuff like that, like I noticed that with legs, when it comes to stop,
He spins out.
asking to back up, he kind of goes, hi. And I'm like, that's not what I wanted. Do I ask him to continue backing up till I get something? Or
Yeah, I'll show you. There, that was better. The moment you hit resistance, your leg kicks in.
I didn't realize this was the leg.
I know he turns back with a straight line, but he's like, no.
Good. So you'll see that release that happens. So I'll show you about the backup thing. Okay, this piece is just as important as the actual activity, like it's backing up the responsiveness. It's, you know, are you paying attention? So the backup piece. So I'll come here. I'll say, hey, let's really dig into where the sticky stuff is. Even if it goes a little overboard. Sometimes that pattern interruptive, I know your kind of thing, your jam is like, let me just hang out here and see if we really got to go for it. Oh, okay, she's serious. Okay, let's go for it. So it's like every time, right? It's like, you know, get up here. We're going. It's not a big deal. We're going. So when I cluck and sort of lift my hand up, he knows that the follow through is there. And you can do this little like preview, right? I'm gonna lift my hand and cluck, and he's like, oh, something's happening. I haven't told him where, so he's kind of like, I don't know where. So I'll say, wait, come back over here. Going straight. You can pony. Go pony. So you can let him know it's something's happening. Pay attention. Then you can go together. And the stop, if that happens, is what we're kind of talking about. Let me get him. So the stopping piece, I'll do it so you can see. I'm gonna exhale. What do I want it to feel like when I ride? Whoa. So it's like landing a plane. If he wants to spin out, I'm just gonna say, hey, we're not gonna walk in front of me. Where do I want you there? So you just show them. If they don't know where to stop, and they come to a stop, they're like, woo, I don't know. So just give them like a specific. I don't care where they stop. I don't want them spinning and ending up in front of me. So stop anywhere back there, but just don't come over here. So I think of like maybe like a line. Anything behind this line is fine. And if they're farther back like that, then that you catch them up to if they're one of those that wants to lag behind. So I'll say, whoa. And if he doesn't, okay, I don't care where you stop, just stay back there. Because he's like, I don't know where I'm supposed to stop. So you just show him. The important thing is how you feel about it. If you're going, oh, you're not supposed to stop there. Oh my gosh, people are watching. That's not the right thing. There's all this like craziness. They're going to be like, I don't even want to stop anywhere. I just want to get away from you. So it's like not a big deal. Don't make it a big deal if they make these little mistakes because they don't know. First of all. And second of all, who cares? Like nobody cares if your horse walks out in front and then you have to correct them. Like don't make it like this exercise that's happening and I have to get all these things done or I'm failing at today's clinic. It's like it's just showing you that's probably how they stop. And what their body wants to do when they stop is sort of be a little bit less balanced and kind of blow to a stop. So it's just an opportunity to practice being clear and non-emotional when you ask them. You know what I mean? And those little things is when you start to correct them, the voices start to come. Like, how come I'm not figuring this out? Maybe I'm not being clear enough. Maybe I'm confusing them. Like, oh my gosh, I shouldn't even own a horse. I should have just got a bike. Like, all the craziness starts to come in and you're like, dude, your horse just took a couple steps in front of you. It's not that big of a deal. Just put them back where you want them. Just show them where you want them to be. And then they'll know. You know what I mean? So, does that make sense? Any questions?
It's hard. I mean, it looks easy, but when you're doing it,
Yeah.
it's like little subtle things, and you have to be, I'm not going to say quick, but you have to respond quickly and
Right.
know, like, when you slow your body, but you give your leg, you know, like, okay, and this is just walking the horse.
Well, that's why I was like, you keep it simple because because that timing and that feel is what you do when you ride.
Yeah.
So if you're doing, at least if you're doing it on the ground, you're not like, you know, it's like, oh, and that piece of, okay, I want you to go forward, but you have to stay soft, and like all these things, this is all the stuff that's happening at the same time, right? It's like, I can't just rip you around with your face, and you know, there's a lot of horses that you can get to do a lot of things with your reins, but then their body is like, and it feels like dookie. So yeah, it is hard. And that's something that'll come in like, wait a minute, we're just leading these horses, asking them to stop. Why? This shouldn't be so hard. But we're being very specific about the way you do it, because that's what you should be doing when you're riding. You know what I mean? So yeah, if it's hard here, imagine how hard it is on them when you're trying to figure it out on their back. So that's sort of the like beauty of this, is that they at least have the space to like get out of your way and figure it out without you on them.
How do you get them back? So usually the horses I have, they're not the ones that go forward.
Right.
So how do you like
I just create energy here.
Okay. But as you're going forward and they're like, you just turn around and just.
Oh, if they're going in front of you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of the same thing as the backup. If they start to go past you, you know, if you're riding, what you would sort of pick up and bring them back to you. So think of it the same thing. You're going to slow your body down. And then if you have to just do the opposite to balance it out. So you stop your feet and come back up. Oh, I didn't want you in front of me. I wanted you back. Okay. And then you can stop right when you're doing it. As soon as the thing is the quickness of you realizing it's happening. Stop it when it starts to happen. That's what people, they get it too far. They go, maybe it'll be okay. Maybe it'll be okay. Maybe, and then pretty soon the horse is like dragging.
It's okay up to 5.
Yeah, it'll be fun. They'll figure it out. And pretty soon you're at the end of the rope and you're like, well, now we actually have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's deal with it now. You might as well just deal with it when it starts to happen.
That's
You're
a big
so
life lesson.
Don't get to the end of your rope. Deal with it when it happens.
Literally, don't get to the end of your rope. Okay, you guys. I feel like I've heard that phrase before.
I'm at the end of my rope. That's your fault.
Right.
That was your fault
That
for
is
getting
so
there.
true. Yeah.
I wonder where that came from. So, yeah. I don't know. Did a horse trainer come up with that saying? Okay, go again. Let's see. Okay.
I think it's because on my right hand I want to pull twice, you know, to get him going.
Right. So don't get to the end of your rope. Good. So what happened there? A lot of people do what you just did. So what you did is, so you guys, what the other thing that's kind of coming up is, if you hit resistance, don't go faster. Don't run away. Don't run away from it. You slow your body down and keep your energy up. That's the part that I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, I think
So
it's almost the opposite. I want to move forward, but I want to just go like this.
So what you're trying to do is you're trying to create more energy by physically having more energy when you need to drive. So you slow your body down, keep your energy up. Right there, drive more. Good, drive more, but yeah, slow your body down. Good, catch them up to you. See, like that. You feel the difference? Yeah. Okay, now walk even faster. So you don't necessarily need to get bigger with your hand. You just need to add energy. Good. So right there, catch him up a little bit with your left hand, your leg. Okay, more with your leg.
Like whack him with this?
Yeah, if you need to follow, if you've asked once and he didn't respond, then I'd say follow through is important.
I feel like if I start trotting, I have to go.
So you're trying to, it's just highlighting the fact that you probably use too much hand when you ride. And it doesn't matter if you get it right away.
No, it doesn't.
So
I just observe, like,
yeah.
Oh, isn't that interesting that I'm breathing up in here instead of
Right.
all over a simple task.
It's not simple. It's much bigger than you think it is. Good. So your feel is going to get fine-tuned because you felt right there that even if you were to trot off like that, he wouldn't have come with you. So you added leg first. Don't get into the mess. Feel it, and when you know it's going to happen, just kind of be a little more proactive about it.
I so want to yank and go.
So instead of thinking about my goal is to trot with you, your goal is just come with me. So don't think about the gait, because you're going, I want to get you to trot.
Yes.
So you're trotting because you want it so bad. Yeah. And then he's like, I don't know yet. So just think about increasing the speed and the energy that you're using with him. So don't go without him. Don't go more until he's with you. Yeah. Each step of the way.
This has to stay loose.
If you can go until you hit the resistance, but the moment you feel the tiniest bit, drive him. Okay. And say, hey, come, we're going together. We're going together. We're going together. And squeeze your right hand pretty tight so your hand can't give. And then you can really feel. So catch him up to you before you go faster. There you go. Do you see how you guys went together there? So every time, and don't think about my goal is trotting. My goal is I just want to move with you.
Okay. Yeah, I got lost in it for a second. I wanted to trot.
Yeah. Importance of creating energy and having them come with you. Don't get wrapped up in we're trying to trot, because that is a goal, and it doesn't matter if you trot or not. You want them to come with you. So if you think of my intention right now is that we go together. It doesn't go, okay, we're walking now, and now we have to trot. There's a build up to it. There's like a gradual increase in energy together versus now we're walking, now we have to trot. There's too much pressure and resistance in that. So if you think of, if I take bigger steps, are you still with me? If you're not, fix it there. And then again, now I'm taking even bigger steps. Are you with me? Fix it then. Pick the moment you feel it.
Another observation that I just would be curious to hear your feedback on. So with Hollywood, like, it's the same. Like, it's just boundaries. Like, you need to stay here and you need to stop and just keep the bubble space. And I feel like when I worked with him and once I established that, the forward was like it was just effortless. So it was like once the thing that was problematic, whether it was the space, maybe for other horses it's the moving forward, it was like everything got fixed. Just
Right.
like that.
Yeah. So it was the invitation, and the invitation was met. So it was like, okay, check, there's your lesson. Okay, let's go do whatever you wanted to do. Like, it seems like, wow, it shouldn't be that simple, but it's like a lot of problems can be unwound when you find like the biggest thing that the lesson and the medicine that they're bringing forward. Some of them are boundaries, some of it is like clarity, they're all different. But for the horses like that, it's like they're not going to go with you until you're ready and feel safe for them to go with you. And I'm telling you, people with boundaries are way more safe to be around than the people that are like, it's okay, and I'm making you feel like poop, and I don't want to do that,
But I also think that some of the corrections have to be a little enforced.
Oh, totally.
Like I mean business.
Right.
And I think there's such a fine line between listening to the horse and is he in a good place?
Mm-hmm.
And that to correct, kind of to make that correction, or I'm going to say put up the boundary enough and to do it correctly with such enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think I'm always thinking, is this the right thing I'm doing to do it so? And another thing is, am I not doing it from frustration?
Right.
Or because I've been asking him to do this I'm just talking about Popper, walking
Right.
Popper. He's like,
So that's the key. So I've been asking you to do it this many times.
So, okay.
And then then you're at the end of your rope. And then you're like, I said go forward, because you've exhausted all of your patience.
And this is I've had him 2 years. It's like, so now it's like if I walk him, this probably is okay. If I walk him this way, this is my leg, he walks right up with me.
Right.
But I feel like that's not, I'm not walking him like this. I'm walking him like this, because somehow this is hard.
Right.
This is
So
just,
there is
that
no right
leg.
or wrong. Like, if it feels good to you, it's fine.
But
You can take that into a transition of turning around and walking and swinging it.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
I know it's the consistency, but it's just so much like, where am I coming from? Is this? I know I'm gonna.
It's so much more complicated than I thought it was going to be when I wanted a horse.
And I'm just talking about leading them.
So, kind of like the Hollywood thing, if you work out that kink,
Yeah.
the riding and everything becomes easy. The leading and the ground stuff that's where all the stuff kind of bubbles to the surface. You can actually see it. When you're riding, you can go off into like La La Land and like You're like, oh, this is so fun, I'm riding, and then you can blame all the other things on whatever you want to blame it on.
Yeah.
But when you're on the ground, it's like, well, what is going on here
Yeah.
actually? Like, what is our connection actually like? But that's the piece is don't wait until,
Yeah.
right? So they don't do that with each other.
Yeah.
Maybe they pin their ears once if the horse doesn't move, they move in and follow through. And I don't wait. The moment I'm like, ooh, I hit resistance, okay, well, let's go now. And I don't feel bad about it. I feel like I know it feels better to be with someone that has boundaries and safer,
Yeah.
so I want to gift them with the experience of working with somebody that has boundaries and that they know exactly where they want to be. Like that's something that sort of is a theme through that you guys would all sort of says, I just want to know like what I'm supposed to be doing, and so do they.
Yeah.
So that boundary is giving them that. That's what you're doing
Yeah.
for them. So if you use the word like enforce, it kind of feels like
Yeah.
there's force.
Yeah.
Like there's it's just
But sometimes you're doing it with more. What's the word then? When you mean business, like
well I kind
Clarity.
clarity,
More intention.
intention.
Yeah.
Those are good.
Follow through.
Follow through.
I sort of consistently just am there. You know what I mean? It's like I don't ever go, oh, today you can drag me around, but tomorrow,
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
that's
I know.
not right. So
Consistency. Yeah, intention.
fucking consistency. But that's that piece, right?
Be disciplined.
Daphne discipline.
Daphne.
Guess I need to change my name.
We can all have all the names.
Okay.
But then it's that piece of using grace with yourself when you don't, right? So,
And them.
yeah, totally.
Them.
Because they're having this experience where they don't get a choice.
And this goes to like even when you're getting them out of pasture and stuff.
Oh, totally. It's like all the the password on the gate.
Oh, when I
I don't know. I think it might start before that.
Well, I know, but if you don't have your shit together, but just make a U-turn. Loop and go back in.
so if you see a U-turn, then you know.
Yeah,
Then,
okay.
yeah, and then you don't go, oh my gosh, I can not ride my horse because I'm too much of a hot mess. I should just not get on. It's more about like you don't have to be perfect for them to like get on and ride them. Just like you don't have to be perfect here. But if you're trying to find, if you're getting on and you're going to ask them for performance stuff and expect them to give you what you're asking, then you have to be able to do this on the ground. You know what I mean? You can't because it's the same thing. Like there's no skipping it. There's no getting around it. There's no me going, okay, well, it's different when you ride. So I'll tell you a couple things. Like what you're doing here is what you're going to do on them. And there's like no getting away from that. It just is. So it is a matter of like, where am I at right now? If I have thoughts and feelings about what I'm doing, that's going to create resistance, which is going to create resistance in them. So then you got to go to the deeper level of how do I actually feel about what I'm doing? And then how do I unwind myself when I feel like my shadow side is like much bigger and louder than myself who just wants to be present and hang out with my horse. Just by you going, I don't really know today, but like, let's just walk and see if you can stay with me. You know what I mean? But keeping it general, we're going to go together today. We're going to go together and not go, we have to walk, trot, stop and back today. That's our goal. It's like the intention is I just want to connect with you and I want you to come with me. I want you to come with me when I stop. I want you to come with me when I trot. But don't make it this hard formula of this is what we're going to do. It's more of like the connection in that piece and then unwinding your own body so that your timing and your feel can be really good. Because it's the same thing. If you're tense, there is no feel. And most people have tension. And I think that's the missing piece when you go to ride with trainers and stuff and they say you can't teach feel. Everybody is born with feel. Like that's not a thing you have to learn. I don't know who came up with the idea that you had to learn feel because you don't. It's not about learning it. It's about unraveling yourself enough to your true self that was born feeling. You know, don't cry, don't do this, don't all the things. They're basically saying don't feel this way. It's wrong for you to feel this way. Feel emotion, feel physical, feel all the things are connected. That's all of it. So it's like you don't have to learn it. You just have to unwind the tension in your own body so that you can go back to it. And then you're connected and you're in the moment and you're present. The feel is there. You know what's happening because you're tapped into that and you're not stuck in your head with Barbara or whoever you're whoever it is that you've named that. But having that conversation with, oh, I hear you coming up right now. I hear you telling me I don't know. But like maybe I don't need to know. I don't need to know because I can feel if it's working or not. You know what I mean? And just acknowledging that the voice is there, that it's not actually you. as far as like your highest self. It's not true necessarily. I'm not necessarily in danger right now, you know, but thank you for letting me know this could potentially turn into a dangerous situation. I'm going to get more present with that, and then I'll talk to you later, or not. So yeah, so if you guys want what I was, whoa, okay. It was like a domino of size. We can spend maybe like a few more minutes in here, and then if you guys want to do a walk around the pasture or the vineyard and put this into practice, because they're going to want to graze, they're going to want to walk ahead of you, they're going to want to each other, they're going to, it's the same exact thing, except we're just upping it a little bit, like upping the like intense, the distraction and the, you know, but also upping like this is fun and we're out and we're, you know, how present can you stay to what your horse needs when you're trying to talk with other people and you're looking at other stuff. Like guaranteed you disconnect from them a little bit when you get into those situations, you know what I mean? So it would be a good time to, can I connect with other people but keep my horse as the first priority? You know what I mean? If my horse starts to yank on me or whatever, I should be able to say, oh, hold on, let me fix this as the first priority, and then we can go back to everything else. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you guys want to spend a couple more minutes in here, like if there's other things you want to try or whatever, everyone wants to take Bastion for a spin, and then we'll go walk around.
Are we stopping to graze? Or
Okay.
what is our
Yes,
intention?
what's the plan?
Okay, here's the deal. So when you make a decision of you want to let them graze, they don't get to pull you to graze.
Okay.
So long as you're walking along, if you feel tension in your hand, you add leg. Soften, add leg, soften. If there's tension, you're pulling me, add leg. Don't pull harder, add leg. If you go, we're going to stop and graze, no tension to where the grass is. You know what I mean? Like I just sort of drop the rope and let her graze. But if I pick up, I hit tension and I cluck, then she should come. If I stop and let with no tension, graze, but I'm not going to let her drag me and go, okay, fine, take a bite. Because every okay, fine, take a bite turns into you're going to get drug everywhere. Does that make sense?
So then right after they're done, you just cluck, you don't do any bump.
Right here, I have tension, cluck. I'm going to keep the tension, and I would add rope if I had to, leg, but then they should just come with. So the grazing's not bad as long as you're allowing it and they're not taking you to it.
So if they go down to graze and you don't allow it, do you pull?
Till you hit tension and then you drive with your leg.
Use leg.
As my horse chokes me out. So here's the trick is, okay, so they're all grazing, right? The moment that you hit tension, I'm going to hit tension here, and then I'm going to cluck, and then I would be willing to follow through with my rope or my leg or whatever. Once you get their head up, just get going, right? It's not like tug of war or whatever, so it's like cluck and then go. And they should just come with. If she wants to put her head down in between, I would just catch them before they get their head down to graze. That's where that timing comes in of not letting it get to the end of your rope. Deal with it the moment they pull on you and try to get more grass. Bless you.